Definitely got the athleticism to do well on clay from what I've seen. Obviously, yeah, he's only 19, so hopefully there's not like huge expectations on him to, go on and win like loads of tournaments this year at least. It's just kind of a stepping stone at least.
He's always seemed to enjoy it, and I think he has actually played some really good tennis. And if you look at his career stats, you realise that he's actually been quite successful on the clay. He hasn't won many major tournaments from it, but he always made deep runs in those tournaments. He likes these sorts of tournaments to build him up. Possibility is as well, though, he might be so desperate to play this match, he might not quite be ready yet. So, these tournaments matter a lot to him in the build-up to the French Open, in giving him that confidence and that security.
Welcome back to the Getting a Grip Tennis podcast. No head-to-head this time, back to the normal stuff. Merlin looking very smart, shall we say. I would say nerdy, but no, just looking very focused, Merlin.
Oh, thanks. So nice. I've just put glasses on, and I'm not wearing a jumper.
They're not those hipster glasses where the lens doesn't actually work, are they? They're actually...
No, the glasses are for my actual sight. Wow. I don't think I'd probably ever wear hipster glasses, but yeah, thanks for thinking I might.
Cool. So in terms of latest tennis news, obviously we've got Estoril Open and the Munich or BMW Open this week. Actually,
Bavarian Championships.
Sorry, yeah, Bavarian Championships, of course. I mean, it's sponsored by BMW, so...
Exactly.
I mean, they need the shout-out, obviously, so I'll give it to them. So, yeah, we're going to talk a bit about that. For once, actually, all the matches the tournaments have finished and we can actually sort of review it. Normally, we're like recording this when the semis are happening or something. So that's nice. And then obviously we've got the Madrid ATP 1000 or Masters 1000 event coming up next week with a lot of big names in there. So we're going to be previewing that. Obviously, Merlin's boy Andy is in there, so we'll be no doubt digging into that. But yeah, let's start with the Bavarian Championships. So obviously the final was just taking place today. Unfortunately, it wasn't really, a proper final for the fans to kind of get stuck into. Unfortunately, Rune's opponent, Van der Zandschulp, okay, I've got it that time, had to retire with breathing difficulties. Rune, again, is probably one of these, again, we put him in the next gen bracket coming through. I think he's only 19, so he's definitely well within that.
He is actually in the bracket, yeah.
Yeah, whatever that bracket is. So yeah, obviously he gets his first ATP proper tour event win, so that's good for him. And I think it was, like you said before, Van der Zandschulp's first ATP tournament, maybe? Like 250 event?
First tour level final.
Yeah, our tour level final, sorry, yeah.
He says, fixing his glasses.
So, do you think maybe the nerves and the pressure maybe was some reason behind the breathing difficulties? I mean, it's just speculation, but what do you make of, but the tournament as a whole as well?
I think, making your first tour level final, it's taking you certainly to a place you've not been before. The fitness it takes to get through a week is quite intense. Obviously, it's not like a Grand Slam. You don't get your time off. Obviously, a Grand Slam, the matches tend to be longer, but it's quite intense playing at that level all year round and then getting to a week where, you have to play every day and you have to play pretty intense matches. So, I don't know, you could see this as a fitness thing. Maybe he's not used to these deep runs in tournaments, for example, and that's where it may have come from. May have come from nerves and anxiety. I mean, we've definitely had stories of late of people having breathing difficulties. When they feel the pressure and they get a little bit anxious and all of that sort of thing. But whatever the reason is, it's still a tour level final, and he's got a lot to be proud of. So. At the same time, all credit to Rune. He's played a fantastic tournament. I wouldn't quite say he beat Zverev. Zverev more or less beat himself, as you very well put the other day, Ben. But that's the nature of the tournament. And Rune, as you have said, he is an up and coming player. He is in that bracket for ATP Tour sort of next gen, and I think he is an exciting player to watch.
Yeah, I haven't watched loads of him, to be honest. From what I've seen, he seems like he's got a fairly well-rounded game. No like obvious weaknesses there. I don't know whether, I'm guessing like hardcourt probably his preferred surface, but I mean he's definitely got the athleticism to do well on clay from what I've seen. Obviously, yeah, he's only 19, so hopefully there's not like huge expectations on him to, go on and win like loads of tournaments this year at least. It's just kind of a stepping stone at least this year. So yeah, I think he'll be in the Madrid Open as well next week. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on against a lot more big hitters in the game. But yeah, he obviously has beaten Zverev in this tournament, so that's definitely going to be a big confidence booster for him. But yeah, I'm just excited to see kind of how he progresses. I remember seeing the other week like a video of him with Patrick Mouratoglou when he was doing like some drop shot practice and stuff, and you can like this kind of goes to that thing you were talking about with the junior players of like the feel that these guys have got. When I was watching that, I was just like, it's just like another level of touch that these guys have got at that very top level. Something that comes massively in handy, especially on clay as well, where you're like, obviously there's a lot more drop shots involved because players are playing a lot further behind the baseline, and you've got to have that feel to be able to cut the point short if you need to, and you see they're on the back foot playing these drop shots and coming into the net sometimes, killing off the points. So yeah, I think it'll be just interesting to see how he develops. But yeah, excited to see that. Also have running parallel to this, we had the Estoril Open in I think Portugal. Lovely place actually from the pictures that I've seen, just on the coast. It'd be quite nice to go there actually.
Well, I was in Munich for the Munich Open. Not that I went to the Munich Open, but yeah, I was in the area.
I could hear the crowd from the street next. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. For this the other event that's going on parallel to this, we had Francis Tiafoe, probably well known to most people, against an Argentine again who could be classed as a next gen player because Sebastian Baez I think he's 21. So yeah, we had Sebastian Baez taking on Tiafoe in the final. Probably not many people actually expected Baez to win this, or I mean, probably like me, haven't even really heard much of him. But actually, he came out on top today in straight sets. To me, when I watched the second set, and it just seemed like Tiafoe was just he was feeling the effects of all the previous rounds because he played 3 sets in every single round before that, and his previous match was against Korda, and he came from a set down in that, which was like an absolute humdinger of a match. So he probably like in these, when you've had that kind of run, you're really relying on that first set to go your way. Otherwise, it's like a proper uphill battle mentally. So I think he was probably feeling the effects of that a little bit. Not to take anything away from Baez because he played fantastic, solid match. He's hitting pretty flat and hard and deep shots, which was obviously that's very difficult on the clay to deal with. I don't know, what did you think of that final and kind of just the tournament in general this week?
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I mean, this is one of these weeks where the tournaments are a bit of a time. I don't want to call it a time filler, but it's kind of a time filler in terms of a fan's perspective because obviously it's not a 500 or 1,000 event, nor is it a Grand Slam. But these are these 250s where players like Baez or Tiafoe or Rune, they really pick up their points, the points that start to push them up the rankings, which is really important. So yeah, I think it's interesting. And what's happened in Estoril, like Tiafoe's had a good week. He's played some really solid tennis, and you always want him to do well because he's got a bit of a showman. He sort of gives you a little bit of a mind of that sort of... it's almost French the way he plays sometimes because of that sort of artistry and the elegance. Reminds you a little bit of maybe something Gasquet might do or even Monfils, more so Monfils, obviously, with the showmanship. But it's always good fun. But yeah, like I say, sometimes when you play to that style, it's quite hard to switch on the serious and switch on that focus to then go the next level and actually win those tournaments. And as you said, Baez, he's an up and coming player, very exciting. He had a really good year last year. Really started to make some ground and starting to sculpt some people. But obviously, to get a tournament like this makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think, as you said, Tiafoe is, very much a showman, and that can emotionally kind of drain you a little bit because very much highs and lows are very much amplified compared to someone who's just, pretty steady. So
the showman quality benefits from momentum shifts. So if you've got someone who starts really playing well, and then you suddenly bring out that absolute cracker of a shot, then you can make a big deal out of that in terms of a showman. You can shift the momentum your way, and losing it as well. Like it's all part of that story, and so it benefits him to. In many ways, it benefits him to lose if that's the style of entertainment he goes for, but not lose all the time. The ups and downs are what he needs.
Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't want to lose all the time.
No.
As much as he likes entertaining, it works to get crowds on side though, at least. So
absolutely.
If you are down in a match, then that can help you if you've kind of like given them something to latch onto earlier on in the match or in a previous round. I'm interested to see how he gets on against like the bigger names again. He's someone that you wouldn't want to come up against in a draw, like if you're one of the bigger players, just because you don't know what to expect, and you know what he's capable of on the day. Like anything could happen, like with like Monfils, Kyrgios.
He's a very unknown quantity. Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is the same with pretty much all these show sort of like stopping players, where you've got Monfils. Songa used to be a little bit like it as well. Obviously, Songa had a little bit more success. He managed to sort of focus himself and get some solid performances a little bit more. But Nick Kyrgios is another good example. And I would argue these are the most talented players. These are the best players in the world. But obviously that hard work, that dedication, the dare I call it, the Andy Murray career grind, as it were. It's not just about each match grind; it's about the career grind, where you're hunting everything. Like that's really important if you want to make a success out of it.
So we've obviously got the Madrid Open coming up next week, a big Masters 1000 event after the two kind of ATP 250 events that have just happened. We've got some big names in the draw. Nadal's back from his little injury rehab. Obviously, Novak's in again. Just kind of like you trying to build up a few tournaments heading into the French Open. And good to see Thiem back as well. Obviously, he had that wrist injury that kept him out for a while. And he was going through like challenges and then kind of building up to this. And he is up against the man, of course, Andy Murray. It's I was almost going to say it's like a battle for the ages, because when I was looking at their previous matches, they have actually been playing against each other for quite a while. Like their first match was back in, I think it was like 2014 or something. And
makes you realise that Thiem's really not a next-genner anymore, and hasn't been for a while.
No, he's he must be like 26 or something at least now. So he's definitely not in that bracket. And he has won a Grand Slam. He won the US during the pandemic.
Quite right. Yeah.
So this is the standout match probably for most tennis fans in this first round. I'm actually surprised that Andy's playing in the clay court season, to be honest.
I'm not.
You got an ear in the camp, have you? Giving you insight.
Always, yeah. No. I think that when you talk about Murray playing on a clay court, he's always seemed to enjoy it, and I think he has actually played some really good tennis. And if you look at his career stats, you realise that he's actually been quite successful on the clay. He hasn't won many major tournaments from it, but he always made deep runs in those tournaments. Story of his life, let's face it. But at the same time, on the clay, it's not like his success isn't there. There are just some people who are specialists that are always there to really make a hard job of it, especially when he got to those deeper stages. I always get thrown back to the French Open. I think it was a quarterfinal, or it was a round of 16 match with him and Radek Stepanek that went over 2 days. That was a big occasion.
Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously he got to the final of the French against Djokovic. Like in that was that
Yeah.
2016 year or whatever when he was beating everyone. It seems like a bit of a love-hate relationship with Clay, to be honest.
Isn't that just Andy with tennis?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Really. I used to remember he would always get wound up on. I don't know if it was Chatrier or the next main court, but it would already be some issue with like the flags or the wind or something.
Yeah.
It's almost like he'd be shouting at the flags, like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, well, he's a little bit. He doesn't like things that are moving. By the looks of it, like there are things that really bug him when he's playing a match. But that's kind of fair enough. Like having a distraction there in the back of your mind, like, does make a difference.
Yeah, but again, the Clay is it's definitely not suited to. Well, he said this before. It's not suited to his general style of movement, and it took him a while to get used to. I mean, it probably takes like a lot of players a long time because not a lot.
If he were a slider, he'd find it a lot easier, I think.
Yeah.
This is it, like, because he stops, he finds it hard on clay. I mean, anyone would find it hard to stop on clay. Like, when I've played on it, I certainly find it tricky.
Yeah, I think more players now are probably better prepared because they grow up on the hard courts that are a little bit more slidey, or they might, play on those kind of 3G surfaces where you can skid or whatever. So I
was going to say, most courts in Europe, maybe not the UK, but most courts in Europe are all clay now. So,
right, I didn't know, actually.
Yeah, a lot of that. Like if you join a club anywhere in Europe, like Germany, France, it's all tends to be clay now because it's easier to maintain, especially throughout the winter and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's many reasons I could talk about as to why one court over the other, but yeah, clay is definitely one of those long-term courts, and everyone can get used to it. Better for the joints as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. Hopefully, it'll be okay on his hip. In terms of this match against Team, obviously Team is just coming back from injury as well, so it's difficult to gauge where he's at. But who do you see winning this, and do you see either of them making a deep run, or is it just very much just?
I think whoever wins this probably will lose the next match. This is quite honestly I think that's where my opinion would go. I'd back Murray to win probably slightly more, but that's mostly because I think he's got more match practice at the moment and he's on slightly better form. But that's only because he's kind of recovered from that injury and he's somewhat healthy, I would say. So, his tennis might not take him to a deep stage in a tournament, but he can take on these big players quite happily. I mean, he'll always make it competitive.
Yeah, it'll be good for the fans to. It's always good to see Murray because
I think it'll be an interesting match.
Yeah. Well, it's always been quite a contrast in style, isn't it, when they play? Because Team he's got like that brute force with backhand and forehand, and Murray's just there getting like 3 extra balls and you should get, and just making him play the extra shots. So it's always quite an interesting matchup between the two of them.
Yeah.
So if we broaden it out into the wider draw, as I said before, we've got most of the big names playing. We got Novak, we got Nadal, obviously Alcaraz. He's the man at the moment, really. Casper Ruud. All the Brits are there. Norrie, Evans, even Jack Draper's there. Who do you see going far? Oh yeah, Tsitsipas as well. Can't forget him. Who's your pick for getting to the final and winning it? Or how do you see this playing out? I'll be honest. Week ahead, so
yeah, I think it's very much up in the air because there are a lot of factors for the people that you think should win it. They may be like coming back from injury. Nadal, for example, he's only just coming back from a few weeks out. But a few weeks out and a man of his class, it might make no difference. If it is Nadal as we saw him before the injury, then Nadal is going to win. There is no doubt about that. But at the same time, I'd put a lot of money on it, just because Nadal on clay, and he likes these sorts of tournaments to build him up. Possibility is as well, though, he might be so desperate to play this match, he might not quite be ready yet. So, like these tournaments matter a lot to him in the build-up to the French Open, in giving him that confidence and that security. That is what we talked about before. When someone becomes a world champion like that, there are all these superstitions as to why you win all of these tournaments. And I think him winning these lead-up clay court tournaments is one of those key areas, or at least making deep runs in it. So, that's one side of the coin. Tsitsipas and some decent form. There are loads of players that you could see taking deep runs and also taking the title, but I don't know. I think I want to say that Norrie is a bit of a dark horse as well, and I think he's very much the case in all of these thousands and these 500 tournaments. Whenever Norrie's in the draw, you never know what will happen, and I think there's a good chance that he'll make a deep run in a tournament. I think he'll be the Brit to go the furthest.
Yeah, when I'm looking in his part of the draw, he's got Van der Zandschulp, Corinna Buster, Isner, Fanini, Alcaraz. So I think if he makes it to the last 16, then he'll probably be playing Alcaraz. So that's probably where his big test is going to come. But yeah,
and he's another man on form. And you can see Alcaraz, certainly making quite a big impact here. So, it's all very up in the air. I'd quite like to see Alcaraz do well. I think it's important to see, a lot of him competing and starting to take a lot of these points away from these more established players, especially for confidence. But it would just be a joy to watch some of the tennis that he's going to play.
Yeah, I'd be excited to see if he could match up against Nadal again, because I think it was last year he played him at Madrid as well, and he lost in straight sets, but obviously he's gained a lot of experience in the year since then, and he's come on a lot. So that would be interesting to contrast from a year before. And obviously we've got I would be surprised if Novak doesn't get a few wins under his belt. I think,
and that's another one. He's a man out of form, but you can't ever rule him out. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and if he starts to get his form back, then he probably will be the greatest player of all time. So,
well, he didn't even. I probably by his own standards didn't even play that well in his last tournament. He still got to the final. So
no, exactly.
And he was a bit tired, I think, in the final, which is why he ended up getting fairly well beaten in the end. But I think he'll be
match practice.
That. Yeah, he'll even the best players they need match practice, and I'd be surprised if he doesn't make it to the latter stages of this, along with Nadal, Alcaraz, Tsitsipas. I would definitely pick those as the obvious ones to make the latter stages. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, see how the week progresses.
Quite right.
Tennis trivia is back again. This time,
tennis trivia.
It's my time to answer the questions. So
Ben's time to suffer.
Yeah. Well, you didn't suffer last time. You got 5 out of 5.
No, I got 5 out of 5, and I reckon today is the day that you get a high score as well. Some of these questions are quite nice, and I reckon I've provided you with a good opportunity to level.
I think you're underestimating my stupidity, but we'll see.
We shall see, won't we? We shall see. So we'll start off with a nice, easy question. Question number 1. What does ATP stand for? And you've got 4 options here. Option number 1 is Association of Tennis Players. Option number 2 is Association of Tennis Professionals. Number 3 is Athletic and Tennis Professionals. And number 4 is All Tennis People. Now, which do you think, out of those 4 options, is the correct answer? To be honest, you should know this one anyway.
How are you going to come and be like the quiz master with your glasses and the full setup, and then just put that as an option?
It's the surprise factor. That's what does it. You're just like, oh yeah, this guy's going to ask some intense questions.
This is
all tennis people. There's always a dumb answer. It has to be.
Yeah, it's like.
Or is it dumb?
In the chase, they just give you like a really ridiculous answer, and then someone ends up going for it, and you're just like, yeah, no, brilliant. Okay, so I can't remember which option it was, but I'm pretty sure it's Association of Tennis Professionals.
You are correct. Well done. That is 1 out of 1. So now we're going to take a little segue into a question about one of the greatest players of all time. Yeah, I'm bringing Steffi Graf back. But interestingly, I'm not going to talk about her tennis, nor am I going to talk about her success. All I'm going to ask you is, who did she marry? Because interestingly, she married another winning tennis player. So you have 4 options. Now, personally, I don't think you need 4 options, because, again, you probably know the answer to this. But your 4 options are Stefan Edberg, Ivan Lendl, Leighton Hewitt, and Andre Agassi. Do you have an answer?
I like how you've gone for like 2 or 3 options where the guys are bald, just to try and confuse me.
Yeah, this is it. I thought, I saw a bold guy. Maybe that's, you never know.
I'm pretty sure I know this one, and it's Andre Agassi.
Quite right. It is Andre Agassi. That's 2 out of 2, so you're doing well so far. The interesting thing about Andre Agassi and Steffi Graf is when they first met each other, I think they were with separate people, so they were different people. And there was a lot of question on the tour amongst all of the other tennis professionals about whether they would get together, and obviously they ended up doing so, because there are some interviews going back, if you look on YouTube and stuff, where people called it early on, but I think they didn't. I think there was I can't remember who said it. I think it might have been Steffi Graf. She was like, I never expected it, and then it just happened. So interesting one.
I remember Federer and Merker, they played like mixed doubles together or something, and there was a little go-on-court interview, and it's cute, it's nice.
Yeah, it's nice, and even in the tennis world, you can find the one, as it were. Anyway,
now when we got Monfils is dating Svitolina, I think, something like that.
Brilliant! I didn't know that one. Yeah, like I say, it's when it is your life. Where else are you really going to find people? They've got to be related somehow, or got to slide into the DMs. So you never know. Because I know that I think it was Jack Sock's wife. I think that their story was that I slid into his DMs, and that's sort of how it started. So fair enough.
We've got all the juicy goss here on the Getting Into It podcast.
I'll tell you what. You sign up to follow the ATP Tour Instagram page, and you get a lot of details.
Okay, maybe too many.
Yeah. Anyway, so question number 3. You're off to a great start. This is one of the funny rules in tennis, and I want to see if you know what the answer is. Tennis balls must be one of 2 particular colours according to the rules. Obviously, yellow is one of the colours, because that's the colour ball that everyone uses. But what's the other colour? Your options are green, orange, red, or white. Which do you think is the possible other colour that a tennis ball is allowed to be according to the rules of tennis?
Oh, God. I'm going to make myself look like a right idiot now. Well, I'm thinking surely... Well, definitely not white, because the lines are white, so I feel like that's probably not particularly helpful if you're trying to pick up the ball. And even in a crowd, I think white would be a little bit difficult to pick up. God, I don't like the way you're looking at me now. What were the other options? Green, I'm thinking grass, probably not the best colour, but then again, yellow's not that different from green. And then you've got, you said orange, right?
Orange is one of the colours, yes.
But then clay is like reddy orange. And then you've got red, isn't it, as the other one?
Yeah.
This is awkward. Oh, God. All right, I'm definitely going to rule out white. I'm going to rule out... I think I'm going to rule out red. So I'm between orange and green. I'm going to go with... Oh, for God's sake, I hate this. This is such a simple question, and yet...
It very much is, but it's
really hurting my brain.
I can guarantee you, I'll give you one tiny hint, I can guarantee you this ball is never used at any point. it is merely a technicality of the rules. It is never actually used at all. I learned this through umpiring courses, actually, but technically it is allowed to be this colour.
Well, I don't know whether that helps or not. I'm going to go with green. I don't know why. I'm just going to go with green.
You are... Get a grip! Unfortunately, that is the incorrect answer. And you'll be shocked to know that the correct answer is the first one you ruled out. It is white.
If you think
about it, what colour is the thing that binds the felt ball together in between? It's white, exactly. So that is one of the other colours that the ball is allowed to be, is white. So that's why the colour of that is white, because it's not only the cheapest way to manufacture it, but it also it stays within the rules. So it couldn't be any other colour for that lining. But interestingly, white was one of the other colours as well, because obviously when tennis started, everyone wore all white, for example. So the reason it's not used is obviously because it's not the best colour, but it is a more obvious bright colour against a background of any kind, and that's why white was one of the options. You could say orange is maybe a better option in that case, in the same way that yellow is. Problem with orange is, especially when tennis started and when the rules were originally created, it wasn't really a colour that was used very universally, because it was very expensive to make these more complex colours. So green, orange and red are actually tennis balls. These are tennis balls used for coaching younger kids. We use red balls on a small mini court. We use orange balls on a slightly bigger, we call it the orange size court. It's pretty much almost the same width, but it is actually obviously a little bit shorter at the baseline, so it doesn't quite go the same length as a normal tennis court. And then green they use on a full size court. But white is one of the colours that you can have a tennis ball as.
I think that's
interesting.
Stupid, but anyway,
it is stupid, and that's why they only use yellow.
If you were wearing white as well, that just makes it even more difficult.
But it is technically one of the rules.
Okay.
Anyway, you seem so annoyed. Anyway, tennis strings. This is question number 4. We're going to go on to a little bit of something different, but still keeping within more of the technical aspects of tennis. So, tennis strings today are designed to help making the ball being hit a lot easier for each individual person. You can even have a lot of different options depending on what you want out of your strings. Whether you want more control or more power, you can make the tension higher or lower, but you can also have a different material. But what was the original material that tennis strings were made out of when they were first designed? You have 4 options here. One of them is sheep's intestines. The second is nylon. The third is metal. And the fourth is cow gut. What do you think is the original material that the first tennis strings were made out of?
Again, this is something I should know. What were the options again?
Sheep's intestines, nylon, metal, or cow's gut.
Well, it's definitely not the middle two. And I know that people use gut for their strings, so I'm just going to go, yeah. Yeah, my answer is yes.
Yes.
Make of that what
Get a grip. Come on, Ben, get a grip.
Yeah, I do need to get a grip, yeah. Cow gut, I'll go with.
You're going with cow gut. Fortunately, that is the wrong answer. Get a grip, Ben. So, whilst you may be right in thinking it was a gut of some kind, unfortunately it's not cow's gut, but sheep's gut, because obviously the word intestines is the same as gut.
I genuinely forgot that.
That's where I threw you off a bit, I reckon, and that's why I wrote it. That's why I wrote it this way.
Oh my gosh! Welcome to biology class.
Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, like I say, sheep's intestines was the first, although now cow's gut is more widely used. So it is indeed a material. In fact, all of the options on this list are indeed materials that you can use as strings. You wouldn't really use metal these days because the tension is too high, but you can use some people use polys now, where you have the strings one way and the strings the other way, horizontal or vertical. Like, you can have them as a different material, and sometimes a slightly metal or carbon fibre based filament is used, depending on what the requirement is.
That's
but most.
Isn't it? Oof.
Exactly. And some people use it because obviously they want a little bit more power out of their strings, or some people use different combinations because they want more control. And like I say, most of these things don't really matter that much for the everyday person playing tennis. But when you get to the top level, how long your strings last in a match, for example, how long they stay tense, how long they stay tense at the exact perfect tension that you have set them. All of these things start to matter a little bit more and can impact the way a person plays, especially on these fine lines. So, it's an important science. Well, it looks like you're only at 2 of 5. You can redeem yourself. You can get over that 50% hurdle and get yourself 3 out of 5 with a nice final question. Now, in the news lately, Boris Becker has had a little bit of controversy. And I'm not going to go into why, but unfortunately, it's not ended up well for him. Despite being an amazing tennis player, obviously these things can happen, bad investments or whatever. We've seen a lot of people in the sports world potentially, fall down on various other aspects. But back in his simpler tennis days, back in the world where he was king, how many Grand Slams did he win? Your answers are 3, 6, 7, and 9.
God, and this is supposed to be easier. Oh no. I hope you were going to ask me something about off the court stuff, because I've been reading up about that. I'm like, yes, I know I know this.
I've got to bring it back to tennis eventually.
God. I'm pretty sure it's not 9. The other ones were what, 3, 6, and 7, did you say?
3, 6, 7, and 9.
Well, I'm torn between 3 and 6. Obviously, no, he won Wimbledon, at least a couple times. Trying to think of other Grand Slams he would have won. I'm going to go with 3.
Is your final answer 3?
Yeah.
Get a grip. The true answer is double that. It is 6. Boris Becker is indeed the winner of Wimbledon, as you well put. He won 3 Wimbledons alone. He also won 2 Australian Opens and 1 US Open. He was also, I believe, at the time, the youngest person to ever win Wimbledon. I think he was 19, maybe at that point. Yeah, I think it was that he was one of the youngest at the time. Anyway,
yeah, I think he was the youngest. He was 17.
I remember that being a big stat. 17 even. Yeah, I was going to say even 19 sounded wrong.
I know something, but jeez.
Well, unfortunately, you didn't quite make it over the 50%. Seems my slightly easier questions ended up being harder and more horrible, but that's probably some of the trick answers. My fault. Nonetheless,
an idiot, that's what it is.
I'm hoping that everyone has learned a little bit out of that one and can go away and tell people all about what colour a ball could be.
Yeah, really, really useful knowledge again that we're equipping people with. You are welcome.
You are all so welcome.
Okay, yeah, so that wraps it up for this week. Obviously, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. And then if you are on YouTube, give it a like, share it around, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well, so that you know when we upload another video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.